Jeremy,
I'm not saying that you have to think it's good. I'm saying that's the only way to have a consensus, motherfuckers. Yes. Quit getting so fucking offended. No. I'm not saying you have to like it.
It's retarded. That's
it's like okay.
Metatron, ma'am, could you keep it down? We're trying to enjoy the movie.
That's escalated Mestra.
Nerderotic.com.
I would like to welcome our special guest, which has been booked for, it feels like a year, Metatron.
Nolan, it's me. Nolan.
I have been looking forward to this for a long time. So the Odyssey is finally here after, I can't say the dust is settled because it hasn't, but after all of the culture war stuff and the clapback from the history bros and the Nolan bros, it is everything I thought it would be. Let's go around the horn and get everybody's general spoiler-free thoughts of the movie, and then we'll start breaking it down. And we will start with Ryan.
Well, I already talked about this a decent amount on Geeks and Gamers Daily today, but overall, I think the movie, judging it as a movie itself, kind of removing the meaning of this story, as a movie itself, I think it's like a 5 out of 10. I think it's very meh. I thought there was some pretty good performances, but I also think there were some really distracting performances, both just because of the casting, maybe because of the color of someone's skin, and also the actual performances. Obviously, there's a lot of pretty cool feats of filmmaking with what they were able to do with this movie, which if you appreciate that, you could really, like somebody like Mike, maybe really appreciate the things that they were able to do with practical effects. But I found it a little bit bland and monotonous at times. I really didn't like most of what they did with the sound. And I'm talking about both the mix and the score itself. So I think it's a 5 out of 10 movie. In terms of the adaptation and what they chose to do and the way they have changed the story here or there or the meaning behind these things, I find it really frustrating. To have the audacity to think that you can improve on a story that's lasted 3,000 years and try to tell a slightly different thing. And some of it's not exactly take a fucking sledgehammer repeatedly over the head over and over and over and over again, but ties throughout the entire story about what they're trying to say about men and violent men, crumbling civilization, and you have to hold that at bay to rebuild. I didn't appreciate that, and I don't like it, and I find it really frustrating.
Mike.
Yeah, I gave it a 6 out of 10 on my first watch, and then I watched it a second time, and some of the things I liked a lot less. I think the mythology stuff is actually handled really poorly in a lot of ways. Like Ryan said, I think there's a lot of stuff to appreciate about the cinematography and the set design and all of that stuff, and I think you have to give him his props for that. Nolan is a master of technical filmmaking, but a lot of other stuff I didn't like. And then some of the human stuff I liked a lot more. I liked Matt Damon's performance a lot more the second time around. I liked Tom Holland's performance a lot more the second time around. And I 100% agree with Ryan. As an adaptation of The Odyssey, it's a bad adaptation. It's terrible, and it did all of the things that I thought it was going to do with Emily Wilson's ideas and approach to things when it comes to minorities and when it comes to, you know, the servants and women and all of that stuff. And it really kind of had to hammer that stuff in there whenever it had an opportunity to, because if you didn't do that, the story would swallow those moments up and you'd forget about them against the spectacle of everything. So yeah, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I don't think that that's going to change. That's pretty solidly where I've fallen, and I don't think that's going to change.
Disparu.
I would have shoved Travis Scott's stick up his arse. That was the most annoying part of the movie. I agree. It's not the Odyssey at all. There's too much change for it, and it's changed because of a message that Nolan wants to put in, which is undermined by the very things that he changed. There's every single woman in this has some kind of feminist moment at some point, just to drive it home. It's definitely Emily Wilson's translation that undermines Odysseus, which turns it not into a heroic story. Odysseus, I know you said no spoilers, but this is from the book. His main point in the entire thing is to get home to his wife. Completely undermined in this. So it undercuts the very existence of things. And the message that Nolan wants to put in undermines the suitors. I thought the ending was awful, and the musical score. Look, don't give a guy just things to hit, because it means that he can make a very good tense scene, but he can't make any other emotion throughout the entire movie. I didn't feel attached. I didn't feel the emotion because of that at all. As far as the casting goes, it made it very difficult to see sort of distance traveled, because everywhere looks the same, because everyone is all over the place. I think that was a huge mistake. And I really despised the modern language and the American accents, which were like a variety of American accents, but I don't think fit in it at all. So it didn't really get me immersed in it. There were some scenes that I liked, but the scenes that I liked were more where it stuck to the original text rather than what it changed. I wasn't bored, but I think that was because I was going, oh, that's different, oh, that's different, oh, that's different. So I was comparing things rather than focusing on it.
All right, comics.
I thought the movie was very competently handled when it comes to the technical aspect of it. The cameras, I actually did like the score for the movie. The modern language definitely pulled me out of it. I fucking hate this movie a lot, mainly because how it's nothing more than just another feminist deconstruction of an epic, which really pissed me off. I was rather ho-hum about the movie up to the third act, and the third act really fucking hammered it home, and it really, really pissed me off. It's no different what we've seen. It's basically another trauma movie. It's rather than an Odysseus trying to get home and dealing with his hubris, it's about him dealing with his trauma. And we'll definitely get into that when we start talking about spoilers. Fuck this movie.
All right. Shad, do I dare go to Shad on this one? I'm not sure how he felt about the movie.
Let me.
Yeah.
I hate this movie with a passion. I didn't expect I would hate it this much. Now, people might assume that I hate it, which is true, but these aren't the main reasons. This is a bad film, even if you were to take away my personal preferences and biases, like my love of accurate arms and weapon and history, all right? This movie is an abomination on that front. The fact that I love having my ears not raped constantly throughout an entire film, even take away that, if the sound was actually tolerable. This was the worst sound design mixing I've ever heard in a film. If you would take away that, and just let's look at like the plot, the amount of retarded stupidity in this film is unbelievable. From what happened in the Trojan horse and what they revealed versus what they showed was stupid beyond belief. The Cyclops scene, the amount of retarded stuff packed into that scene broke my brain. The reaction of those giants in the armor and how that played out and why they were just there, unbelievably stupid. The sacking of Troy was one of the most retarded pieces of crap of a siege sacking I've ever seen, let alone the ending fight scene, which was an absolute friggin' joke. This film is absolutely retarded on most of its level. One of the only good things in it was when Odysseus finally returns, but I'll try and avoid spoilers, but the father-son thing, there's something there. But for the most part, this film is asinine, retarded garbage. And then when you add all the inaccuracies, the armor and weapons in this thing, the armor especially, we're talking worse than Rings of Power bad. And I never thought we would reach that level. But holy crap, we've surpassed Rings of Power with how bad this armor is. And with a film that treats, has a bow as a central plot point, I could not believe how retarded the archery. No joke, they don't even know how to hold it. The hunting scene where the son is off with that thing, he's literally holding it halfway up the bow and he's shooting it, and then it's supposed to be a war bow and they're plucking it like it's a piece. This film sucks on so many levels. I despise it. It needs to be cast into the sun and burnt. This will not be remembered with fondness.
Jeez, I thought I hated it.
So 9 out of 10. Gotcha.
So bad it was good.
Odin.
Yeah, I mean, from the start, I mean, when Travis Scott shows up on screen in the very first shot of the film, I immediately got taken out of it because I'm just like, what the hell is this? I thought this was supposed to be an epic movie, and instead I'm like, okay, this tells me a bit more about how modern the actual screenplay is going to be. But kind of taking it from my Criticalist review, the production design, visual effects, scope of the film are at times very tremendous. And very much should be, those that are responsible for that production design, especially, are to be commended. Or all the background, all the location scouting, everything like that. I think that was, again, a very big part of this film. Cast and crew, I think, because they did, especially the ones that were on the ships, clearly had a lot of work cut out for them. Again, I want to commend them for doing that too. But the problem is that when it comes to the screenplay and the direction, which are two of the most important elements of almost any movie, it's a complete mess. it's a narrative mess. It's Nolan doing this same thing he's been doing for a long time now, of trying to play around with the timeline as far as like when things are happening, jumping around, especially in the very beginning. It's a little disorienting in that way. But then even once the film gets to its actual firm, once it gets to that kind of continuous clip moving through the story, it again just feels like it just feels bleh. And a lot of that I think comes down also to the performances from the actors too. Like it's bad when all the controversy that's been surrounding this movie is not even the worst part of the film, but it's actually the screenplay. It's actually the story itself. Because you can get away with a couple of moments here and there. You can get away with, some bad CGI from time to time. But if your story at the very core is messed up and is not really coherent, then it's impossible for you to really be able to land it in any sense. So again, kudos to all those people, especially those tech people behind the scenes. I think that they did as best a job that they could do, but the story itself, again, I just think really let this movie down. So I gave this a bogus score over on Criticlist, 25% over there, because I don't think it's worth wasting 3 hours of your life on.
Nope.
Let's hear from the woman.
Overall, I think looks wise, a lot of normies are going to like it. I need subtitles in this movie because I can't hear half the conversations. Like there's water running louder than some of the people talking. And that to me, you're missing the story. And then on top of that, the telling of what happened before and jumping around was confusing for me. But I didn't feel like this was a Greek movie. Like it didn't feel very Greek.
Wait, you mean when the Indian, the black, and the Asian went up to some random person, were like, "We're Greeks from Ithaca." You didn't buy it?
Yeah, totally.
No. I was so excited when I thought they had, been taken out. I'm like, okay, now it'll feel like a Greek movie. And then they came back, and I'm like, oh God, dang it, no. But yeah, I kind of think this is going to end up like the sequel trilogy for Star Wars. A lot of people are going to like it, but they're not going to watch it again. They're not going to know why they don't want to watch it again, but they'll be like,
but your brain
knew.
knew.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So,
all right, I'm going to go. So then it's Jeremy, then it's Metatron. All right. So I've seen it twice. My opinion did not change at all after the second viewing. I found the film to be tedious. What had worked for Nolan in the past, even like Oppenheimer. The reason I don't like biopics very much, but Oppenheimer was engaging and I didn't regret my time watching it. I was into the story and it was just exposition dump after exposition dump, which can be done really well. I like the movie JFK. All that thing is exposition dumps that are mostly full of shit, but like it's entertaining. And the same with Oppenheimer. This style doesn't work for a mythological tale that is essentially fantasy.
No,
and
it does not.
And it breaks what the Odyssey is. See, I would like to see an Odyssey in my Odyssey, and I didn't see it. It got broken up too much with this ADD editing to where, and this is what, again, Nolan has done this in the past with great effect, but you have basically a conversation setting up a scene told within 3 separate scenes between 2 of the same characters. They'll start a sentence and then they'll continue it as part of another conversation, but actually it continues a sentence before they go in and set up the scene. And it was just too much. I think I heard Chris or Alan say that this feels like a longer movie cut down for time. And I would agree with that. But I think if Nolan wanted a 4.5 hour fucking movie, he would have gotten it.
He can't. IMAX is 3 hours.
IMAX can't allow over 3 hours.
Okay. So there you go.
Yep.
So it feels like there was more there, that we just got a set of vignettes that we rushed through. And the core part, why I want to go see the Odyssey, is I wanted to see Christopher Nolan take on Gods and Monsters. And we saw exactly how he did it. He grounded this into dirt. Unfortunately, the monster scenes, and there's a couple I really liked. But they were rushed through at the end, and they almost felt like, okay, we've got to do this. Let's get over it, and let's get it over with so we can spend more time in Ithaca, which we spent way too much time in Ithaca in this.
To be fair, the book does that as well, and it is just as boring. Even in the book itself.
But there's changes from the book that are deliberate, and then there's some that I completely understand. Like, you can't do it. It takes too long. I get it. But you can sense the motivation behind those changes. It was fucking obvious. And we'll get into those details. That pulls you out of the story, that pulls you out of the immersion. But mostly it was just a slog. And they threw so much. It was storytelling by bullet points and going back and forth. And again, it's worked for Nolan in the past. It doesn't work for me in this movie. And my biggest concern was he the right guy to take this on? And I don't, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I don't think he was the right guy. I don't think he was the right guy to take on something fantasy. It's like an atheist adapting the Bible.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good call out.
I like that.
Jeremy.
That's not a bad take, actually.
No, yeah, that's a good take.
I think every single person's take on this panel represents a lot of people on the internet right now. And I think everybody's criticisms are valid for sure. I also think that there's going to be wildly different takes from people. And for me, I think that this movie is going to be almost everything that everyone wants it to be. And I mean, the people that are going to have issues with this have a lot of meat on the bone to sink their teeth into. And the people that want to love this have a lot of meat on the bone to sink their teeth into. And I think this is going to become one of the most debated movies, maybe of our, whole time here on YouTube.
Of the last 5 years, for sure.
Because there's people like Roger Maxon and Jonathan Paju who listen to their takes on this and what they're getting out of it. It's absolutely crazy. And I don't even agree with that. For me personally, look, this movie, somebody brought it up. I think it might have been X-Ray Girl. The diversity is a fucking problem in this movie. It truly holds you back from buying in. You have Christopher Nolan who says he wants to immerse his audience in IMAX. We get on the biggest screen possible. We want to immerse you in this. And then you have nothing but black people and Patels showing up on screen. And it completely takes you out of it. And I could maybe forgive the American accents if I didn't have a bunch of diversity running around too. But when you take the American accents and diversity, it is hard to buy into you're in ancient Greece. I think it is shot unbelievably. I think the spectacle of this movie is next level. I do think that there is some interesting themes and symbolism in this movie that we will probably get into a little bit later, positively and negatively. I think most of the performances are really good. However, a little overhyped with the reactions. A lot of people saying everybody's Oscar worthy in this movie. I don't buy that. I also think that while the horror scenes are really good, I don't think Christopher Nolan's ready to tackle horror based on these two scenes. I think these two scenes are really good for him, and it's interesting for him. I'm not ready to see a Christopher Nolan horror scene. As far as what Gary said about the editing and there's a lot more film out there that got cut. I agree with that. Even though IMAX cameras can't go over 3 hours, Christopher Nolan chose to do this on IMAX. So he's the one that put himself in that box to begin with. So whether or not he needed more time to tell his story, it doesn't matter. He chose to put himself in this so he could say, I'm the first person that ever shot on IMAX. I'm Christopher Nolan. I do enjoy this movie overall, but I do not deny the heavy criticisms. This is maybe Christopher Nolan's most flawed movie outside of Tenet. Maybe. And maybe Dark Knight Rises. But that's where I'm at. I liked it, but I acknowledge that there are insane criticisms and justified criticisms of this movie from a storytelling standpoint, from a script standpoint, and the casting is a disaster. And fuck you for putting Elliot Page in this movie or Ellen Page in this movie. It's a disaster. The first fucking scene is Travis Scott and the second person is Ellen Page. It's ridiculous. It's so distracting. Off rip. But with that said, there's a lot of good in this movie too. And so, I'm looking forward to the debate that we're going to have.
There you go.
But since I only wanted to set this up because I knew I was going to have a more positive take than most. But in order to offset Shad's terrible take, Metatron is about to give us a masterpiece review. Go ahead, Metatron.
An epic.
I'm sure he loved it.
So
Goodness gracious.
The floor is yours, sir.
Is it? Okay, thank you. Now, so, man, there is a lot to say about it. And of course, I do understand the feelings the Shad has. I do get it. Because not only on the historical side of it, because, yeah, we complained about Batman's armor, which was ridiculous. But, brother, the Trojans.
Holy crap!
Holy what
my
has happened
God.
with the freaking crow? That's like Hollywood costume department. Like, that was unbelievable.
Dude, that's
Anyway.
like Halloween, Spirit Halloween costuming.
It was.
It was worse.
I'm gonna have to
Let Metatron have the floor. Let Metatron have the
Muppet.
floor.
You muppet. I'm saying this. Listen. I have to absolutely set aside the history for a moment, because it was a mess, and I have to set aside the politics for a moment, because otherwise, out of emotions, I'll give it 0 out of 10 because of what they did to the Greeks who did not deserve it. But if I set that aside, then it is a mid-movie experience, and in fact, I would even give it a 6 out of 10. Because there are some good things. For instance, Anne Hathaway did a phenomenal job. Believe it or not, what's his name? Odysseus was believable. I liked the acting. But there is so much, like, for instance, they fucked up Argos. No one fucks up Argos. Like, you can't give 3 seconds to the dog. Are you joking? Even a psychopath would cry watching that scene. They skipped it. The ending was very underwhelming. I'm not going to say anything. And there is a lot of problems. But one thing I do... So I hated it, but I hated it because of the politics and the history. And in fact, I do have to say this. Gary, I freaking love you. But the Odyssey is not fantasy. Like, we have to say this. It's
Well,
history.
I say essentially fantasy because
Right.
it's a mythological
It's
tale.
mythology.
Because there
Not
isn't
fantasy.
any Cyclops that I know of.
Well, even that I would argue, because here's the thing: the Cyclops are from southeast Sicily, specifically the town of Acireale.
I don't mean to disparage your people.
No. Wait, my uncle who's from there behaves exactly like the Cyclops, and he even kind of looks like him. But anyway,
Oh,
I
I
get
got
it.
some family members in Alabama. If we're talking like,
perfect. But no, I get it. Look, the sirens who weren't even there, I don't know how that happened. But yes, the fantasy elements are fantasy due to the mythology, but the city exists. It's historical.
Yeah, Troy.
We
Troy.
know where it's
Yes,
called
yes.
Wilusa, the technical term. I have them here. I have the archives of the Hittite Empire that tells us exactly where the city was. I brought it here. I will bore you all to death, and there is nothing you can do about it. But I will say this. It was... did you guys see the buildings? They look
Yeah.
beige. They should have been all painted. They look like ruins. They live in ruins.
Yeah.
Ancient Greece
Yep.
was not ancient in ancient Greece. So there is that. Anyways, there is a lot to say. Technically speaking, it's a mid. It's not trash. It's not 0. But the people that said 10 out of 10, they are liars. They are liars. And there is the diversity thing. There is a lot we can go into. The armor looks awful, but the weapons weren't bad. I don't know if you noticed that, Shad. The axes were fine.
A couple of swords, I was like,
Yeah, the swords were fine. The axes were fine. Bronze Age axes. It looked
okay,
fine.
Metatron didn't give it a 0 out of 10. My work here's done. We're good. I don't have to argue for it now.
If you add the politics, I will, though. So there's that.
But it seems though as well your 6 is from like the technical aspects of making the film. But I would agree with you on that. But it's the themes of what they did.
Oh, they
to
destroyed the
Odysseus
Odyssey.
and
No,
the
they
message
destroyed
they were
it.
pushing,
They destroyed
which makes me just
Yes.
like drag the points down.
100%.
Like
I understand that.
There is like the technical aspects of just Nolan making a movie, and then because it's not the politics and stuff, it is more like it's all together with Zeus's law, which really doesn't make any sense when you don't have Zeus in it.
And that's
No,
the thing, right?
I'm glad.
if this is an adaptation of like a 15 or 20-year-old book or something like that, that's some random thing, we're probably not all that upset. But this is an adaptation of probably the most foundational piece of literature when it comes to hero's journey and stuff like that for all of Western civilization, and it's a story that's been around for 3,000 fucking years. So everybody has, to some idea, an understanding of what this story is, even if it's been a while since you read it. Maybe you've never read it, you just heard things, blah, blah, blah. Except for fucking Matt Ramos, apparently. Everyone's familiar to some extent with this story, which is why it generates this type of stuff. Because when you make changes to a story like this, you better have a really fucking good reason why. Because obviously the story is held up for a very long time, the way it was written.
Ryan had a very good point, and I wanted to connect to that. You know how they did Disfigured Helen? Which really blew my mind, like how Helen is actually all cut and ugly because of that. I'm so confused. Where did they get that from? Because even the freaking Greeks, they don't actually call it Helen of Troy. Like in Greek, that would be Elenitis Trias, but they don't say that. They call it They call her Aurea Eleni, beautiful Helen. That's how the Greeks call her. So why did you cut her face? Please.
I wondered if the husband had done that because
Yeah,
she
it
was
was
mouthy and he was like,
Yes.
"Ugh."
Yeah.
So I wondered if that was meant to be like domestic
That
abuse.
he did that to her. That's the
Yes.
implication.
Because
Well,
Christopher
there's-
Nolan said that
Another
her
evil
story
man.
didn't wrap up the way that he thought it should have wrapped up, and this was kind of a callback to like, you know what, she left him, and so he obviously had to get some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Mendeley
found
found
it
a comment
funny.
about the face that lost 1,000 ships. And he's like, well, maybe 500 now.
Yeah, and
Which actually made me laugh.
That's a very it's a very big decision to disfigure the most beautiful woman in the world, and I'm not just talking about the casting, but it's like a really big decision to do that. So I expected a little bit more, some reason
Context for that,
Oh,
yeah.
Mendeley is kind of an asshole. Like,
yeah, and it's really because like you're watching in that scene, and I was trying to figure out in the second rewatch, I was like, is he an abusive? Was he abusive to her? It's hard to tell because John Bernthal always looks like he wants to smack a bitch, and so and he's so he's in that moment. He looks aggressive, and but I don't know for sure unless there was something I missed. But that seems to be what's implied.
Well,
Yeah.
Menelaus, when he arrives in Troy, his intent was to kill Helen.
Was to kill
but when
her.
he sees her.
Yeah.
He immediately
She whips her
changes his
titties
mind.
out and he goes,
Never mind.
You're like, well,
why would I want to harm those?
I changed my mind. Yeah.
Wow.
Also, did you guys think that? I don't think that the rated R was justified.
No,
I think there's a
that's-
couple of
that's
decisions
wrong.
that could have been made to dial that back, and you could have got the PG-13. But like with the sirens, they move past that really quickly. You don't really
So
see anything.
fast.
There wasn't a lot of violence, and I was
There's no
expecting
blood.
with a rated R, I was like, okay, we're gonna get violence and titties, and we got neither really. You
Was it
know,
two
and so-
F-bombs
There
or
were-
something?
Yeah,
There were
two-
more
yeah,
tits
two
in
unnecessary
unnecessary
F-bombs.
reasons.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah, there were more
unnecessary
tits in
F-bombs.
Oppenheimer than there were in
Exactly.
True.
So yeah, I was a little
Or it's cute.
taken. I was a little shocked by that because I really thought I didn't think we were going to get a lot of nudity, but I did think we were going to get a lot of violence with the rated R. I really thought that that's what they were going for, and not really.
this is a very somber movie. And would it kill Christopher Nolan to have a little fucking fun? He's done it in the past, even with Dark Knight Rises, a movie I don't like. There's some fun scenes
Light
in that.
it
There's
up.
some fun scenes in Dark Knight. Like he just
isn't a
is
car.
capable of doing it, but this is just. This is where I'll disagree with Metatron.
Please.
Matt Damon's performance
didn't
was
like it?
just no.
Really?
I thought it was Matt Damon. There was Matt
Yeah.
Damon grimacing at things a lot from
I thought he was good. I
I think
didn't think it was
Pattinson's
great,
one
but I
is-
thought he
it
was
was
good.
fine.
I thought he was good.
Yeah, like
I don't think it
bad.
sucked, but I don't think it was like this standout
I
thing.
understand.
And he's
It wasn't
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer. He
Well,
wasn't that good.
One of the problems is
and he
that-
should have been.
Well, hold on. One of the problems is he wasn't Odysseus.
He wasn't Odysseus. They left out one
That's
of his
a writing
biggest.
decision.
They left out one of his biggest character attributes.
Yeah, that's a
He's
writing
arrogant
decision.
and cheeky, right?
Yeah.
That's important to the
They made him
story.
a complicated man.
But
They made him a sad man. They didn't even make him complicated. They just made him a sad, regretful man.
what I felt
from
though,
PTSD.
I felt that the scenes that he was in where, when he was back on Ithaca or whatever, I felt like he commanded the screen and commanded the moment. He definitely had presence in all of those, and he carried the weight of
So
I'm Odysseus.
Well, and there's something that they do in the beginning of the movie, and this is what I liked about it. When they talk about Odysseus, and you see like the younger Odysseus, they hide like his face at first. So there's a lot of like shots of like his back or like how other people are perceiving him in the world. And so it's supposed to like lend to this legend that what he is to other people is this legendary figure that people like respect and talk about, at dinner and stuff like that. And I feel like, to Jeremy's
Sure.
point, when he comes back to Ithaca, that's the Odyssey we get, but all in between that, you don't have that because he is just very sad and nobody fucking listens to the guy. And you almost would have wished for like a little bit more like exhaustion or something. Like, man, like every time I try to do something to get home, somebody fucks it up, like, or something. You don't really get that because it's spending so much time trying to deconstruct a character that didn't need to be deconstructed. So-
because he's not trying to get home, right? It's because they've
Yeah.
changed this whole thing about when he does this, when he plays this trick, when he does this deception, and he sees the animalistic instincts of man come to light, and the violence that's perpetuated, and the downfall of civilization because we broke the fragile bonds between men, which I do think you can make a movie about that. You can tell a story about that. But because that has shattered him and broken him, he doesn't really want to get home. So it's telling a different story. Those things are woven all throughout about men and their base instincts and how bad they are. And constantly these poor women are getting wrapped up in it. Even this fucking evil witch who turns people into fucking animals, right? Even she has to be apologized to because men will be men. And
It's wild.
Like that should have been hot.
Bothers me
also,
about. And that's why I say this isn't Odysseus. He is not the most clever man in the world, and he doesn't have this desperate need to go home. You know, the Cyclops scene, fucking Nolan's like, well, I don't think that the nobody, joke, the nobody trick plays really well in modern language. You dumb bitch. What the fuck? That's the only reason anyone knows it right now, because of our modern language. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And you're telling me that you couldn't have put that in there? Odysseus is flawed. He is a flawed person.
Yes.
He's incredibly prideful. And that pride becomes his downfall when he pisses off and he desperately has to let Polyphemus know that I'm the one that tricked you. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, destroyer of the city of Troy, the cleverest man in the world. I'm the one that tricked you. And he calls Poseidon, his father, to curse Odysseus. And that's what happens. That's the ramifications of Odysseus's pride. I don't think that story needs to be changed. I just think it should be adapted properly.
But that's why they don't use nobody, because they wanted you to feel sorry for the Cyclops to not only strip him of it. It's like they didn't even have him talk to each other, because the moment you're like, well, you're negotiating, which means now he's eating sentient people, you're immediately not going to feel sorry for him, which is what they were going for, because it makes Odysseus feel bad. But also, this entire thing is based on Zeus's law. Treat others as you would like to be treated, but also it means that you treat others how you would like to be treated. So if someone's treating you awfully, you can do it back just fair enough. But in this, people are like, well, it's his pride which does it. Yes, but also the Cyclops is the first one to break Zeus's law. He came in and immediately eats them. The only reason the Cyclops gets away with it is because he's the son of a god. So it is like your contacts with the gods allow you to break the laws of the world. It wasn't actually Odysseus that breaks it first. And they don't want to do that, which is why they have to change the entire story. So they have him fire an arrow at him, which turns him into a spiteful person that he lost, rather than the intellectual guy that has to brag about being better than everybody else, which is something that you can get behind. Everyone would rather be the guy that beats everyone else and arrogant about it than the loser that gets destroyed and just can't help but lash out like a child. Even before that, when they leave, they go, oh, well, Agamemnon's going the route that we all know, but I'm just going to sail off into the distance and possibly die with my entire crew, but I don't care because we'll probably find something. And it just makes him look like an idiot right from the get-go, and I don't think you can come back from that.
Yes, like Odysseus was a retard throughout this film. Like constantly, and when him shooting the Cyclops as they're leaving, which provokes it and gets more of his men killed.
That was weird.
He is an absolute moron. It undercuts all the investment in this guy. Not once did he feel like a competent war hero that people, looked up to and mythologized and anything like that. He was just a sad, depressed man, fumbling along.
It pissed me off when the fucking 7-Eleven manager is trying to tell Odysseus, why don't we fucking go this way? Why don't we go this way? He's like, no, we're good. Like, that irritated me from the beginning.
Do not redeem it. Yeah. Well, but the other part of it, and the reason that it doesn't work, is because Nolan very much stripped the gods out of this story as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
True.
And the nobody doesn't work because it's an island of Cyclops. No, it's just some big dumb retard that lives on an island that just happens to look like this because he's deformed, not because this is a culture of people. So when you're trying to portray a guy who's prideful and, this iconoclast who's like, I defy the gods and stuff, then you hear people talking about, when they talk to Odysseus, they say it a lot in this movie, you're so lucky. Oh my gosh, you're so lucky. I'm like, why would you believe in luck? Odysseus should be saying that he's the lucky one and not giving fealty to the gods because he doesn't believe in them. He doesn't want them to have any agency over his life. But then it removes all of the connective tissue of the story, which is the reason Odysseus can't get home. It's because he's too fucking arrogant and keeps challenging beings that are beyond his capabilities and beyond his strength. And so that's the part that really actually makes the story not work, is that Nolan couldn't strip the mythology out of it without it destroying the story. So he just removed the gods and then has everybody talk about them constantly, and then goes, well, yeah, but you can see them in like the peal of thunder that happens every time somebody mentions Zeus, which happens like 5 times in the movie. They're like, Zeus, and you hear thunder. And, goes, and you're like, well, how many fucking times are you going to do this in the movie? It happens so many times. I was like, is this a joke at this point? But like, you can't strip out the gods from this story.
I agree.
And then that doesn't mean you have to cast actors that are standing around going, well, I don't like the way that Odysseus did a thing, but show that the world around him is responding to his arrogance, and they can't do that. So it has to be and then they did this, and then they ran into that, and they ran into this, and who knows? Not the consequences of your actions led you to this point.
One of the biggest changes that they did is they stripped out Poseidon, who is very important in this movie. And the whole thing with the Trojan horse is that one of Poseidon's animals is the horse, which is the reason why they built the Trojan horse and led it to the gates of Troy, because they have the temple of Poseidon. And that's the other thing too that he does is he defiles the temple of Poseidon.
It's true. And
the thing is, like, the gods are mentioned a decent amount, but I think that with the exception of Athena, who we see, and based on what we get at the end with that priestess with the face of Athena as Athena's head is getting cut off, I think you're supposed to wonder whether that actually is Athena or whether it's just in his mind something created. I don't think there's supposed to be any certainty there.
Oh, no, I think he's absolutely portraying that these are just delusions that he's having from a PTS trauma.
Right. I think you're supposed to like guess.
It's an Inception ending. It's left up to the interpretation of the audience.
True.
This film actually undercuts everything because the entire account of the Odyssey, his journey, is a drug-filled, bonkers, bullcrap story that is making up because he's literally drugged. Like, the whole context of this film is that nothing is true. None of that actually happened. He was drugged when he was giving the retelling. And if you pay attention, anything to actually see where it's not a retelling, right, is actually no fantasy, it's grounded, and all the fantasy elements are him reciting something while he's drunk. And so that means it never actually happened. There's no point to it. This film actually, and most of it is just like, oh, so he decided to hang out with a chick on an island, taking drugs for a couple of years because he had PTSD and didn't want to return home. That's the summary of the story. It's pointless, ultimately. Like, it undercuts the entire journey of the Odyssey. Think about that. The more I think about this film, the worse it gets.
The Odyssey part of the Odyssey, which is told, as is recounted as a story, is only really the middle third of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the nonlinear storytelling, the Odyssey is nonlinear storytelling.
Yes, it is.
Right. And it's actually spectacularly done when you have Smelicus and like the story of Odysseus going to war and him growing up there and realizing all these suitors are after his mother. He needs to do something about it. He goes to find him, blah, blah, blah. And then like he gets released from Calypso's island and he makes his way to the kingdom and he's talking to them and he's telling him his story. And then Odysseus goes back and tells everything that happened during this time and all the shit that he's fucking been through. And then they send him on his way to Ithaca. And then the last third of it is him taking his kingdom back and everything. So it is nonlinear storytelling from 3,000 years ago, which I guess is one of the reasons the nonlinear storytelling didn't throw me off that much in this. It's gone to the next level in this one, certainly, with little things in the present, then these two journeys, then the present, then these two journeys, then Ithaca, then these two journeys. It's definitely to the max in this, but I didn't find it confusing. But maybe that is why.
Well done. Yeah.
Maybe that's why, for me, it feels like it rings really emotionally hollow because you're just jumping around so.
Yeah, the jumping around so much. I was following completely what was going on. I'm guessing most of you were too.
Yep.
It flows better the second time, though. I said it flows better the second time for me.
I don't agree with that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think what it does when you're jumping around so much, it doesn't allow scenes to breathe and for any emotional impact. It doesn't allow you to get connected to a character. And that's why this does feel hollow and dry. Like, again, you could have had a little more fun with this. And it was just so somber and drab. But the other thing I didn't mention is that fucking soundtrack drove me nuts. Like, I could not stand it. There was like a couple of scenes where it fit, right? With the Cersei scene, it fit
with the voices,
but just constant drumming. It's like, oh,
It's
like,
hardly a score. It's
I
just random
didn't.
noises.
Yeah, I didn't like the music, but and it's weird because his decision of like we're not going to use orchestra because they didn't exist back then, but I guess black people did. It's just so fucking weird. So like, because in Nolan movies, all of them, Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, you know, Oppenheimer, the score is a standout, just like it is in Star Wars and Superman 78 and Jurassic Park. Like the score is a
The
piece of
Oppenheimer
the movie.
soundtrack is so
It's fucking
good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most underwhelming scores from a Nolan movie. I didn't hate it as much as a lot of you were saying you did, but I was completely underwhelmed by it, especially in IMAX. I didn't cover my ears like a woman, like Shad did, apparently.
No,
but,
yeah, well,
but-
you brought this up, Jeremy.
so-
I decided to go to IMAX and get the
You did
true
this.
Nolan experience. The sound was so bad; those drum beats were so blaring and painful. No,
It's mostly because they never stop.
Because it was yeah, I didn't like being assaulted. I holy crap. This is actually inexcusable. People say Nolan's sound like is bad. This was next level. This is not some artistic, oh, I want to do it so they get immerse everything. No, this is why I gave the analogy of it. Modern art
It's
crap smeared on a canvas, put on a wall. To try and excuse this for some artistic merit is just cope.
It's
This
not
was-
as bad as
this was
Tenet. It's not as bad
absolutely
as Tenet.
no, this
it wasn't as bad as
Tenet is way
I
worse.
enjoyed Tenet a lot better.
Yeah.
No, I'm it's not the score or the sound mixing. I mean, on
Sound
Tenet.
mixing.
Awful.
It is. Look, I get it. I understand what you're doing to me. I understand why you're trying to why it's so loud in certain moments.
Yes.
And like a little bit of that, I think can do a lot. However, when it's that loud for 3 minutes, 4 minutes straight,
Mhm.
it actually, I think it has the opposite effect. I think it has the opposite effect of what these types of things and that level of sound can do, because it becomes distracting and obnoxious.
I don't know. Like
it's also
if it was better music, I wouldn't have a problem. My problem is not
Maybe.
that I like the loud sounds. I like the intensity behind it. I just didn't think it was that good.
You cast like
it's
somebody like
repetitive. It's so in the Troy scene, there's a thing where it like starts off with a drum beat and it builds and it builds and it builds and it goes on for ages and it keeps getting faster and faster and like just change the track,
So-
do something different. But the guy had so few things to mess with. It's
This
just-
they were
what it
trying
is.
to build tension, okay?
yes, because Ludwig
With those
Göransson
10
is-
people who are fighting in Detroit.
Ludwig Göransson is like, I mean, first of all, he's basically Hans Zimmer's like heir apparent or whatever. But
give him a piano.
His whole thing, yes, his whole thing is
Apple
building
fell pretty
around-
far from the tree on that one. Okay. Rolled down the street into the
Well,
gutter.
you go to the guy and you go, yeah, I don't want any orchestras, and so you're restricting him on what he can do in a movie that requires you to build tension, and also the soundtrack kind of has to carry the moments that are boring and slow, and you don't have the ability to make orchestra swells. So you're basically telling a guy like, yo, here's like your 10 instruments that you can use, whether or not you know how to use them correctly. And so I 100% blame Nolan for that, because you're restricting a guy who is known for utilizing a lot of the same tools that Hans Zimmer does in a different way. And the perfect example of that is Oppenheimer, because that soundtrack is phenomenal, and there's always callbacks and layering for different music and songs and how they play with each other and interconnect with each other. What are you doing when you just like fucking have a couple bongos and some harps? They're like, yeah, call back to that later in the movie. Like, with what? More banging on the drums? I don't like, what do you want me to do here? That feels like a really boneheaded decision on Nolan's part, to be honest.
Well, there are other period instruments they could have used, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a problem with the score. To me, that was like one of the lowest things on my list.
Nolan Schill, you're a Nolan Schill comics. That's one.
It's sold out to Big Nolan. Listen,
partnership.
Nolan is
I gave it praises.
Nolan is a show off. Okay.
IMAX division.
Nolan is a big time show off.
100%.
He films everything in IMAX, and he films that. His choice of nonlinear storytelling is some of the hardest film to make.
Yes.
It is a jigsaw puzzle. So he just fucking shows off, and he knows it. Okay.
Yep.
You can talk about not having his fucking cell phone and all that shit. He's an auteur. But, however, as Ryan would say, one of the biggest flaws of this movie is the dialogue. The dialogue in this movie. There is a scene where Odysseus refers to the Bronze Age within the Bronze Age.
You are right. I forgot about that. I forgot about
Well, there's a lot of things being checked in this movie that don't belong there.
We
like
must be in
mentioning
some
the
kind of
sequel.
Suicide Squad. That's exactly what
What
that
are we, some
was.
kind of Suicide Squad? Yeah.
Bro, we haven't even talked. We've gone this entire time. We have not mentioned Ellen Page. We are an hour and
I
10
did.
minutes in.
I did.
All right.
Let's
maybe.
Ryan talk about
Casting.
Ellen Page.
I knew it wasn't going to be Achilles, though. Please.
So, yeah,
No,
it wasn't going to be.
It's a proxy for other
No,
things, but it was not Achilles.
Anybody you see that says, that claims, she was going to be Achilles, they changed the last minute to the backlash. You are a fucking dumbass bitch. You just are.
Right, Bart, by the way.
Sinan was clearly supposed to be in this thing the entire time because there's, even though the character's only on screen for like 4 or 5 minutes, the unfortunate reality is that Sinan's plot carries on continuously through the entire fucking
It bookends the movie.
It's incredibly relevant and prevalent. And it's just it's really off-putting and really annoying.
So
It happened in the book.
real
I
quick,
mean,
Ryan, we'll get right back to you. A proxy for Achilles would have been better than what they chose for Sinan. They specifically brought in a character from another story to add complete fan fiction to the story, and then Sinan acts as a proxy, I would say more to Elpenor.
Elpenor, exactly. Thank you, Gary. Yes. Because it's not just Achilles. Like, there is, I do feel like some of like Achilles' regrets of being dead and shit like that, and how much better life is compared to death. I do think there's a hint of that in there. But I think more so than anything, the youngest crew member, Elpenor, who's supposed to die on Circe's Island, and like, I feel like that type of protective element was a little bit more like a proxy for that. But
And Achilles is mentioned in the
character.
movie, by the way.
Yes.
Menelaus mentions Achilles.
I mentioned Ajax too.
Yeah.
What
So,
else is mentioned?
but-
like
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
But it's annoying. You got a fucking woman pretending to be a man. And ironically, you decide to cast a trans dude. So a woman who's pretending to be a man, and you make him the weakest fucking motherfucker there is, which I guess that makes
Killed
sense.
immediately. Gets killed immediately.
The character is also victimized by both the antagonist and protagonist. The character is portrayed as a victim,
Yeah.
although they're in Hades for some reason.
To take that off.
The only good men in inverted commas in the movie is Sinon and Telemachus. Everyone else is deemed to be some kind of horrible abuser of people.
Yep.
Even if they haven't done it, they were about to do it, but the woman stopped them. So I don't think that's accidental.
Well, that alone makes this film garbage, right? But there are multiple things that make this film garbage, and in totality, the whole film is unbelievably bad. Like we've been mentioning one after another. Like just the whole messaging about men in the film, garbage, right? The fact that Elliot Page is thrown in your face, constant garbage. The writing, garbage. The sound design and sound mixing, garbage. Like one after another.
Well, back to Elliot Page, real quick. Ellen Page. It's the motivation behind the insertion of the character that is completely obvious, that rips you right. I mean, aside from Elliot Page, Ellen Page being on the screen, it's the motivation behind it because it was specifically subversive. It wasn't stunt casting. It was subversive casting. They did it to make a fucking point.
See, but this is where I disagree with you on that. Just like I disagree with people like Jonathan Paget, who thinks that this was cast as a Trojan horse to bring back traditional storytelling in the movie, and Nolan is a 5D chess genius. I think that Nolan, and Ryan has said this, so I don't want it to. I think Nolan just casts people that he likes working with.
Do you think that Elliot Page's death was a crucifixion?
No, I've seen the screenshot. Like, dude. Hang on. Oh, wait, in Man of Steel, when he's floating out of the ship, when he's talking to him, and it was that a Jesus scene. There's literally a Jesus scene in Man of Steel.
I mean, like, that is literally what that symbolism is.
You're saying that there is no motivation to be provocative whatsoever in the casting.
I didn't say. Your point of like you think Nolan is doing this to reinforce Hollywood's ideas is what I'm pushing back against. I think Nolan's just casting who he wants to cast.
I actually,
And
this
they
is where
so
I'm push
happen
back.
to be
I don't,
diverse. I don't know.
I don't think that. I think Nolan.
Well, he
did
is part
this
of
on
Hollywood.
purpose.
He's just part of
Yes.
Hollywood. It's not
But
like
I
this
think-
guy's walking around
Yeah.
with a fucking MAGA hat. So what I'm saying is he's part of the system
that he believes in.
part of
It's a
it.
system
Yeah,
that he
I
believes
think-
in.
I
He's
think
just kept out of his movies.
Yeah, I think
until
Nolan knew
now.
this was going to cause a lot of controversy. I don't think there's any way he didn't think that, because he can pretend all the day long that he doesn't. But we talked
Y'all
about
are giving
this.
him way too
He-
much credit.
No, he addressed
Come on, bro.
the controversy. If Nolan doesn't care about it, he won't talk about it.
So
He'll
you think
lie
he's
to your-
working 5D chess to get the biggest?
No, I don't think he's working 5D
controversy
chess.
ever?
No, I think he knew.
He said it in
that if I
interviews.
cast somebody who I like, but I also know is going to be a controversial choice for this, and make them a central figure in my story, I will get a lot of eyes on my story, and I'll also make the people in my industry happy that I'm hiring the right people. I absolutely
It's
think
the
He
same
said,
with
"Fuck
Helen."
it, I'm the king. I'm
Yeah.
going to do what I want, and I'll back this
Why
up."
didn't he do it in Oppenheimer?
Hold on. I look, the vibe I get, especially after this movie, is that Nolan is so fucking egotistical.
Yeah.
That I don't think he would let anybody, whether they are part of his inner circle, whether they're outside voices, I don't think he'd let anybody fucking dictate what he does. I think he just does what he wants to do, which is how you
Yes.
get to the point, to be honest, of making a movie like this and subverting a story like this. Like, that's how I view him.
He's
I
George
think-
Lucas prequels. Nobody's telling him to do shit. He does what he wants.
Exactly. I'm not
We
saying
all agree
anybody
there, but
pressured
you
him
can't-
into
you can't
making
deny
this.
this is
Hang on, comics.
subversive.
I'm not saying anybody pressured him into this decision. I'm saying I give Nolan all the credit in the world. He is responsible for every fucking thing that happens in this movie,
Everything.
including this casting, knowing. And don't tell me he doesn't know. And don't tell me.
Lupita
that's-
Nyong'o is a demonstration of that. It's for political reasons. We know it. There is no way. 100%. Well, Emily
Because-
Wilson translation. Why that?
because
Well, because she's not on screen enough to have a performance, really. So it can't be, oh, she was so amazing in this role, and so it had to be her because of her iconic ability to perform. Because I don't take anything away from her as an actress, but she's on screen so little, it's clearly, you only make that decision because you know exactly what it is you're doing there.
Oh, you just
You
made me
can't say the
realize
most attractive
something.
woman in the world is a white woman.
Well,
That's what that was.
But then that's
True,
that's
true.
underlined by
True.
taking what the story by historians, I believe, think it's analogous to, which is the war in Troy was not for Helen. It was for control of trade routes.
well, and he says that,
And they say it in
Yeah,
the fucking
yes,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
me and Jeremy, we talked about this. I think that it was as much of a intentional baiting of audience members, because there's no way he doesn't know what's happening right now in Hollywood. There's no way he's not aware, because of the way it even happens. The fact that Elliot Page dies that quickly and in such an embarrassing manner makes it immediately feel like, because I immediately thought that, I was like, holy shit, it was a nothing burger. But
Well-
because he's not going to be proven wrong about why he would cast somebody like this, they're integral to the story. It's just that right away you almost get silenced because you go, see, they're in this movie for that quickly, until you keep watching the film.
Yeah.
You go, oh, actually, they were part of it. But in that moment, you kind of anybody that isn't paying that much attention, will go, oh, all the people that were upset about Elliot Page, he dies in the very beginning of the film. What are you guys upset about? A lot of people will make that argument now going forward,
Mhm.
because
They
that's
will.
how they see it, because they didn't think about how important he is to the story. And
Yeah.
I think that part of it, in the same way with Helen, the face that launched 1,000 ships, more like 500. And you go, it's a joke. See, you just played it up as a joke. Except Lupita Nyong'o also kills Agamemnon, which is not what happened originally in that story. So now you go, okay.
That
She
actually is
does.
hold on. That is
Yeah,
exactly what happened in the original story.
But they're not
Agamemnon's
twins.
wife does kill him.
Yeah.
They kill him at a feast, though. They don't kill him in his bed.
Actually, I believe it was in his bathtub, but it was in private.
Yeah.
Well,
From
there's
behind.
two versions. One is at a feast. The other one's in a
See,
bathtub.
I read
with
the
an
version
axe.
where he was at a feast because his cousin was there and they threw down with him. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
the
how
one
he dies is
the
irrelevant. Like
bathtub.
she still does it. I did find it interesting though that they specifically showed her killing him, but not where his son comes back and kills her. Like there are a lot of decisions which showed one-sided this than the other.
women empowerment. Yeah, because
hang
you
on.
messed-
It goes to how retarded this film is. How is she still alive if she's known to have murdered the king? Like,
She isn't. Agamemnon's son comes and kills her.
Agamemnon's son fucking kills her, right?
Yes.
They talk about
I think they mention it.
Hang on,
Yeah, they mention it.
Telemachus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the film, yeah, they mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Telemachus.
not shown.
says he killed his mother. He's oh no, he avenged his father.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, they even justify
But they didn't show you that because then you would have
Hey,
seen
Chad,
justice
if you watch
occurring.
it
and
a
they wanted to
second time, you'll probably pick up on that one.
Also, the maids, they don't show that the maids get also executed together with.
Yeah, they left all of that out.
So we
wonder
should
why.
talk about the ending a little bit because I actually think that in terms of the ending, him coming back, him fighting off all that stuff, I don't know how my combat guys feel about that sequence combat wise, but I think cinematic wise, it was pretty well executed.
I thought so, yeah.
And impactful.
I disagree.
So I don't know how you guys feel about it. But then the problem was that Achilles goes into exile. And also, I don't feel like we got to see everything after that, where, all right, we took care of all these motherfuckers. All of them are dead. Now, everybody that abandoned us in this household, anybody that didn't stand with us, why don't you clean up this blood and gore and mess? And then we'll take you outside and we're going to fucking string you up and fucking hang you. And then everybody gets like the worst fucking fate possible. But that would run contrary to what they're trying to say, which is like men are too violent and aggressive and all this stuff.
No, because in Emily Wilson's translation, she specifically says that the handmaidens were raped by the suitors. And so it turns Odysseus from a hero into someone that murders victims. And so it's an entirely different thing. And that is you cannot square that circle between the translations. And the way you got around it was just not including it, which is a real cop-out. True. But the entire point behind all of it was like he only got into power when he realized, oh, actually, the Zeus's law is the most important thing. The problem with that is Zeus's law is backed up by Zeus, that knows everything. And so if you misbehave and do something to somebody else, he will punish you personally. And so the essential message is that if you do something horrible to something, force will make you face justice.
Yes.
And so those suitors should have been facing justice anyway. But in the fight, he's like, no, I have to specifically make you attack me before I can do anything, because I think he even says, we have to find a way to kill them that doesn't break Zeus's law. Well, they've already broken it long ago.
Yes.
And instead, the way he gets around it is one of them was like injuring the dog and he's the first person he shoots with a bow and then everyone else attacks him. And I really didn't like that it was a purely defense orientated thing. He only kills people that come for him, when it should have been the righteous justice dished out onto all of the evil, which had been like hurting his entire civilization. But that would have made him seem like too good a person. And it would have essentially, it would have gone against Emily Wilson's translation of violence bad. When actually the message of the thing is that violence is justified in certain conditions.
So Disparu is spot on in terms of the actual underlining narrative that's going on in regards to the combat itself. All right, choreographing a 1 versus 20 versus 30 scenario is extremely difficult to pull off authentically. This was a joke. He had a single bow that he could only shoot one at a time, and everyone is like, oh, he's got a bow and arrow, quickly run! Whereas like they could have mogged him so easily, and the way they tried to justify him taking them all on was comically retarded. It ruined all the tension, all the gravitas that scene was supposed to have to this clown show nonsense fight scene. That alone would ruin the film, let alone all the other problems. But
I can top that. No, I can. Yeah, so they've got a guy above who's throwing weapons down. He's like throws swords down, and then Patterson will go fetch the swords, and then he'll throw some shields down. And go, fetch the shield. All times.
Get the magic knee brace from Dark Knight Rises.
And I'm not saying you can't pull off a 1 versus many scenario and still be unrealistic, because in the reality is, if you have a single bow versus even 5 guys, you're screwed. They all they need to do is rush you. The fact that they were all scared out and running around, all that, again, comical.
Yeah, but then you start getting into cinematic language, because I mean, there's literally hundreds of fights over the years of like a guy versus a bunch of guys, and if you just look at the background, they're all doing this.
It's
not interesting.
Yeah, but it's how it's shot, and it can be done. I mean, you don't expect John Wick, but when he walked in with hooded, and it was like, oh, fucking, he's home. Let's go. Let's do this. And yeah, it was kind of underwhelming for me. It's just not believable.
Can we talk about how the let's go moment from the trailers is completely different in the movie, and it's not half as bad as it seemed? Because the let's go in the trailers looks like they were going for into a big fight. Let's go! But this one, they were actually running from danger. So
running from
the context
shades of Hades.
I've seen that, but I don't think that changes. For me, it's the language as a whole is the problem that
much
But
scene.
it's
Like,
still just
even if it just gone run, I would have thought that would have made way more sense than the way they shot
yeah,
it. It
I'm
was
not
odd language.
saying from a language standpoint it makes it any better, but it is slightly a different perspective on it that, you know,
They definitely misled
it
you.
lands differently. The ending of the movie is a Nolan ending to a T, is what it is.
Is it?
It's just like all of his other fucking Dark Knight Rises, Inception, Interstellar, you know, with the montage and kind of making you think something, you know, the guy's going to be dead for a minute, and then they're like, it's purely a Nolan ending to a fucking T. So I'm not saying that makes it good and deviating from the source material, no, but it is a Nolan movie 100%.
Sails off into the undying lands at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really stupid. Like the entire, because actually in the book he takes great effort to make sure that his people are buried, even going back to another island that he's been before because he left a person behind that he buried. Whereas in this, it's like, no, you've got to sail west to make sure that you pay tribute to all of the dead. It's like, hang on, you spent the last 2 hours, 3 hours of this movie telling me all they're horrible people that go around attacking women, and I'm really supposed to like think that all these men are evil. But now we care that they got a good burial to the fact that you're going to leave your own kingdom. Like, it's there's a lot of contradictory messages in this when it comes to like down to his own message, which isn't in the book. So it's a message he set up himself, which contradicts itself. It's
not only that, Disparate, not like you bring up a good point about the contradictory bullcrap in this film. The film even tries to gaslight you to tell you that something is happening, and what it shows you is the opposite. And so the whole account of the Trojan
That's
Horse,
when it's not telling you what's going to happen and then showing you what happens.
Well,
That happens a lot
like
in this movie too.
the Trojan horse scene where it's like it was so cramped that people were forced to drown. They showed them inside the Trojan horse, and there was plenty of room for them to just lift them. I was banging my head against a metaphorical wall watching that. It's like, this is retarded. What you're showing me is nowhere near what you're saying. And that was multiple.
Where did they get the
times like
straws
that.
from?
Yes.
I guess they went in with them.
Those are, I think they were like hollowed out arrows. I think they were arrows that were hollowed.
Oh, okay.
I want to go real quick to the Cersei. Speaking of the underlying theme that isn't contradicted at all throughout this entire fucking movie, let's go to the Cersei scene, which a lot of people listen. There's part of it that I really like.
The disturbing elements of it, like I think between that and the Cyclops scene, like when they start and everything, it's disturbing and horrifying.
it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that part is cool, and I'm like, this is what I came to see in this fucking movie.
Yeah,
and not Penelope going for fucking a half an hour, but
That actually is accurate to the book.
Stuff on
Like, she's
really
right,
good, though.
and I would have cut that down. I would have instead of adding Sinan, I would have cut that out and maybe added, I don't know, the floating island or something. You know, that they took out a lot
Bag
of
of
shit.
Wind, the Lotus Eaters.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of things they could have
They
added.
combined the Lotus Eaters with Calypso.
Yeah, they did.
They ruined that though.
Fine with that one
did.
because that that's like a very quick. Oh shit! Let's not eat these flowers. Let's go.
Well, and that would have been.
Yeah, but
they would have had
Calypso.
it does. And it also ruins the fact that the crew was leading to it getting mutinous and getting pissed off. Problem is, like, how would you? This is where you would have to make this a series or multiple movies because he needed to stay on these points longer. But like, how would you film the Land of the Lotus Eaters? I mean, apologies to Sargon out there, but like that would have taken a long time to really get the feeling of that. So the
Star Trek
combination of
did it.
that.
Remember when Star Trek had that game where they all got plugged into and they just couldn't stop helping the game?
Star Trek was a series. Like, listen, this should have been a series. This should be a prestige series and not a 3-hour movie. Period. But
maybe that'll
Cersei-
become an idea. now.
Cersei again. Beginning was cool, and I get the whole. I mean, the point of the story is, oh look, Jack Murphy got some work. That's great.
69 for 69.
69 for 69.
He's fucking white. Like, holy cow.
Yeah. But and the whole point of it is gluttony. But what they really lean into the Emily Wilson of it all in this scene at the end. And it's just like, God damn it, I got Barbie vibes. So she turns all the men into pigs and basically says like, this is their real form. And they don't say it, but that's the feeling I got. I could be wrong. She's presented as a trauma survivor of some kind.
Yeah, well, because she's asked her like, was it your sister? And she's like,
yeah,
like,
and she freaked out when she saw the H-1B visa Greek.
Yeah,
which might be understandable.
She's like,
yeah,
a black in my home. Yeah,
but the speech that she gives Odysseus, for one, Cersei's supposed to be beautiful. She's not.
Yes. And
not
sweet
at
talking.
all.
Listen,
At
no
least she's not
disrespect
black.
to Samantha
At least-
Morton.
Listen, take her wins where we can get them. She ain't black, all right? So
She's just old.
That's not
She's just
Be a
a
Herculean
feminist.
task to stay with her for a whole year.
Brian referred to this earlier. They made her a oh God, I just blanked on the term now. An antagonist that's misunderstood. That's instead of her just being
Modern
blatantly
Hollywood.
evil. Yeah, and instead of Odysseus, putting a sword to her throat and then fucking her for a year, they cut that out and had her put a dagger to his throat and then give him a speech of the toxicity of men.
Yeah, that's
This is
true.
what
They sleep
Go ahead.
together in the story. Yeah.
So and again, Hermes is involved in the story. Like
And
you
he's
actually have a
gone.
god appear to Odysseus and give him some help so he doesn't fall under the sway of Circe. But the whole point in the fucking actual story is that she lures people here and then turns them into these things because she hates men and blah blah blah, all this stuff. So, but in this, they're kind of intruding on her. Right. They're intruding on her space. They're coming on her space. And I don't think his crew really did anything wrong in this situation. They seem pretty well behaved, especially with all the minorities involved. Like they seem rather well behaved. But she does this to them anyway. And really what she tells Odysseus is I just revealed their true forms and it's saying that all men have these fucking tendencies, these vile, violent, gluttonous, if you want to say, tendencies. And that gets echoed at the very end when Odysseus is looking over all the suitors in his house, and the way that they're eating is supposed to remind you of the same exact sequence when, like, you saw his men. All these men are fucking violent, and they're the ones that are going to be causing the downfall of civilization unless we do something about it.
fatherless children is what they are. And it's an accurate representation of fatherless children.
But I hear you saying that because we talked about it earlier.
Call me a pig.
And that's fine for the end. But however, there's no mention of that anywhere when it comes to these men who are with Odysseus.
Yeah.
So, like, if that was the tie-in, I don't see it here because
I wasn't applying it to Odysseus's men though. I was applying it specifically to the suitors and how they represent what a fatherless man or a fatherless child who doesn't care about societal norms would be. And when the man returns, when the king returns to reclaim what's his and judge those who have mistreated his kingdom, that's what that
But
is.
they have fathers.
No, because Telemachus is a fatherless child, and he immediately hands his entire kingdom over.
No, he's waiting for his dad, though. He believes his dad is out there. He's heard of his dad.
Yeah, but his dad leaves.
Your
He doesn't
dad
have
went
it,
out for dad went out for milk. He's never coming back. He's like, yeah, he is.
But-
One day.
But in this bit, it's supposed to. This is one of the things that contradicts his entire message of the movie, which is you shouldn't break Zeus's law. Well, she breaks Zeus's law, but her only excuse is, well, they were about to break it into the future. But she's literally on her back in the garden, and the guy goes, "We're not here to hurt you." And then she just goes, "Well, do you know that? Are you sure?" It's like, well, did nothing happen? And that's like later on they go, "Well, actually, you have to do something to break Zeus's law before I can even attack you in the first place." So they contradict it with this as if she's supposed to know anything. And this is the exact opposite of the book. It's not even just a subversion. They take everything and flip it 100% around. He even gives her the knife to use against his throat, and he goes for a bird. Like he could have just attacked her. Like,
This would have been a good.
Jeremy, your description of them being fatherless men and that message, that is such a stretch, and it's just
No, it's not. Telemachus says it. Telemachus says it to Robert Pattinson.
No, Robert Pattinson's character stays behind to be with his father, Jeremy.
No, but
He's got a father, yeah.
He said none of us know where our fathers are, is what he said. Telemachus said that to Robert Pattinson.
The message is to say men bad. That's the message.
No,
and it's obvious and blatant.
Are you telling me that Telemachus didn't say that to Robert Pattinson? Because he did say that.
No,
He did, but not in that context. Not that Robert Pattinson.
What should have happened was when
he had a father, unless he died.
When Odysseus takes off the hood, he should have said, "Daddy's home," and then started killing.
Yes, if you're going to use "daddy" in any part, it should have been right there. "Daddy's home."
Yeah,
and he pulls out a couple Uzis and
It's just like, "Who's your daddy?" every time.
Double
the
bow,
thing is,
double bow.
that moment is so undercut though, like by the lecturing, and I think the Barbie scene is a perfect one because it is so abrupt that she has to tell you, right, like basically screaming at the audience, "This is what this means. This is why this is important." And I'm like, you could have just had them act like assholes. And
well,
then
I kind of figured it out with them, eating like pigs and then turning into pigs. I mean, I got it, but thanks for telling me afterwards that these are gluttonous, bad, toxic
Because
men
might
who
have-
go out to war and rape and pillage, and it's like, yeah, and thanks for showing it to me later too, because I might not have picked it up there.
Because you might,
The other
might have
issue,
went,
though-
oh, she's a villain. We actually have a bad guy in the story.
But the other issue, though, is this is Emily Wilson's translation, which is imposing modern morals onto a multi-millennia old story.
Yeah,
and actually, in the original story, they freely admit that they go around and they kill loads of people and take the women and the kids and everything else. But there is absolutely no moral judgment. It's just part of life. This is just what we do. Quite often, they're just like, yeah, you've come around as a guest. We'll just go and sack a city and take their children. It'll be fine. And so I do think it's wrong in the story to impose that kind of modern moral system on that as it is. If you want to be immersed in it, show it how it is. These people glory in it. They have no moral judgment in that. This is just a fact of life. And then let the audience, if they want to bring that system to it, do it themselves rather than put it in the thing. This is the difference between calling them housemaids, servants, and slaves. Slaves in this means an entirely different thing than it did back then, even if they were technically slaves.
That's one of the things that they changed too, is that when they go to that first island and, you know, the village is on fire, they're like, well, why did you do this? It's the sea people. No, they actually go and raid that village. It wasn't the sea people.
Well,
yeah, that was confusing to me.
Yeah,
too.
with the farmer on
Well,
his
they were.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
they really wanted to.
they are the sea people.
They really wanted to get into the fall of the end of the Bronze Age, where the sea people, the seas people, were there. They don't necessarily know who they were to this very day. They have some idea, but they don't know. And they don't know if they ended the Bronze Age. By the way, there could have been a cataclysm that ended the Bronze Age volcano. But they really leaned into that.
But the whole like, we were the sea people and Penelope crying and everything. It's like, do they mean the Greeks as a whole after what they did in Troy, and like a different set got there before Odysseus and his men? Because the guy was talking about the sea people before the first time they did that.
Yeah, I thought it was them coming back home, were going raiding and things on the way there.
Right.
And then they hit the end, and then the stories of what they've done hit them later on, just time travel of like people going through. And then they hear stories of people going around raping and pillaging and stuff. And I think they created their own stories that they were scared of.
But didn't the villager
The thing is, though-
mention the sea people?
Yes,
Like,
he did.
To them when they had
he
their
did.
first raid.
Yeah, so he's like, we thought you were the sea people. That's why we burned our own village and took off.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is, if they're meant to be the sea people coming home from Troy, that specific mention makes no sense to me based on what they revealed later.
I don't know enough to be like whether they would have been raiding while they were at Troy. That's the thing.
Nolan really wanted to work in the sea people is kind of what I got from that.
Yes.
The other
Yeah,
thing,
and if
oh, go ahead, John.
if Odysseus and his men were supposed to be the sea people, hang on, there was an 8-year gap of them doing nothing, with him just chilling on an island and his men dead. And so wouldn't have
What
people
other
said,
men were
they're
there?
Like,
It wasn't just him, it was all the people coming back from Troy would have gone around. And I think they may even be going for the fact that once you break that rule, you cause other people, like violence begets violence, I think is
Right.
what they're
That
going
was
for.
my point. Yeah.
well, my point is the film is not clear because it seems to imply that Odysseus' men were the sea people, but then it's contradicted by other things, and so it's just a mess. It's like, what are you
Well,
trying to
I
say?
mean, they're trying to say the underlying theme, particularly at the end of, that's what was such a bummer, because the Cersei scene started out so well,
It did.
And that's what
and
I
it
wanted to get
just
to.
the rug got pulled for me
Yeah.
right afterwards with that speech, because it was
agree.
so heavy-handed, and in isolation it could have worked, but the problem is they keep hitting you with that, and it's not necessarily with a big hammer, it's a small hammer that they're pecking you on the forehead, going, hey, men are bad, this is toxic masculinity. And you could certainly have that in the movie. It's fine. It's part of the story. It's again, Odysseus's arrogance is what brings him down, but we never bring him up. He's just this sad dude,
Yeah.
kind of grimacing all the time. And I never really see him being clever. That's why with the sirens, when he's like, tie me up, it felt so jarring. It's like, why? The
I wish it
Odysseus
lasted
in this
longer.
movie wouldn't be that curious and wouldn't give a shit.
And that was a
We're not
change for no
arrogant.
reason, because he's told on the island of the dead, like he's told to do that. And so they want to make it so that he's just like doing it for the lols, because they can't have him know I was commanded by somebody who knows more than me, because then it would have been out of his hands. There's a lot of, we want to make him blamed for everything, when actually a lot of the stories is done from external influences, gods and everything else. By removing the gods, you would utterly destroy everything, because the gods aren't just people watching. They are actively involved in
Actively
basically
involved in
everything.
everything,
They will give people ships and crews to go to different islands if they want you to go there, and you lose so much when you do that.
Well, I do believe in he's not instructed in the book to tie himself up and listen. That's a decision he makes
Yes.
for himself.
Yeah,
It's
because
He
He
was
can't
told by
act
the
outside
guide in the
purpose.
Island of the Dead to do that if he wants to. He says you
Yeah.
can do this if you do, then tie yourself.
But-
He's even told to put the wax and things. It's not like
Well,
don't come up
correct
with
me if
themselves.
I'm wrong. He wants to listen to the song of the sirens to get information, basically get insight, not information, but insight. And this scene was so fucking. It was nothing. You don't
It
see
was
the
too short.
sirens.
Too
The,
short.
Not
too
just the
short.
sirens
It's
is a mistake,
muted.
Nothing.
Music is terrible. Yeah.
but I actually kind of like the scene after the siren. Well, one I like when the soldier like he pulls the wax out and you see what happens if you don't. If he
Asian
wasn't tied
dude?
to
Yeah,
the
he,
ship.
he jumps into
He
the
starts
yeah,
like
he jumps
throwing
into
hands
the
with
water.
people to get into the water and stuff. I thought that part was cool. I actually like the after, which is it's not just a bunch of like hot mermaids being like, "Yo, come get some guys." Like I like that he's like they sang to me about like everything I could have ever wanted as a man
What-
and all of my inadequacies, and now like I wanted to, like,
all his
fix that.
broken dreams. Yeah.
I
The
thought-
issue with
I
that
thought
is
it doesn't
it was
work.
a story of everything that he had that he wanted that he knew he couldn't have again. But it's like
Yes.
you just mean your wife. But that's
Well-
immediately undercut with Calypso,
And they
where it's
told
like
me I
actually he
don't
doesn't
wanna
want to go
go
back to
home.
his wife.
He
Yes.
specifically said they told me I don't want to go home.
Which is that part was dumb, but like I
Yes.
thought the idea was cool. But once again, and I've said this a lot about this movie. There's so much like cognitive dissonance in this film because Nolan, I don't think even knew what he wanted to do. Because once you remove the gods from this story, you have taken a fundamental part of the plot and what is driving this story forward out. Because that's like all the connective tissue, and then trying to connect it with like feminist ideals doesn't work because they
they also replaced it with Sinon, right? Because that becomes the major driving character arc of Odysseus in this film is the whole thing with Sinon.
I mean, the gods are so absent. They might as. I mean, the thing is,
I don't
though,
think
you
they
have-
do exist.
I
in this
don't
at
think
all.
so either.
I don't think so either.
I mean, you
So you
look
think
at Polymephus, but the Cyclops maybe you could think of it, but they're out. You might as well have gone with like Troy, and that was my criticism. People will bring up Troy. That was my criticism of Troy then
Yes.
and now. You know, it's a fine movie, but at this point, you should have left him out because my biggest concern before any of the fucking casting or any of the shit is Nolan the right guy for this? This is so out of his wheelhouse, and he
Exactly
rushed
what I thought it
any
was.
of the fantastical scenes. He rushed through, like he stayed on the Cyclops pretty well, and Cersei started out well, but the Lystragonians was fucking. I mean,
Oh
I
my
laughed.
gosh!
That was, I
Oh,
hated
no.
that change.
Oh,
Like,
the child with the mini plate armor.
And who just randomly just hangs out all day wearing
I
fucking
got-
plate
thank
armor?
I got a
They were
John
in battle
Borman.
formation, waiting for it.
I got a John Borman Excalibur vibe from that, and I think, especially with the steel-plated armor. But
It felt like a video game moment where you're like, you know, if you're walking into a new room and then there's just like characters waiting.
Yeah.
True. Ready for war.
They're
would
just
you have to open a door?
it's some
like no, clearly not
Okay.
Rhode Island.
one of the most annoying parts, I guess, frustrating parts about the movie there are little elements where you're like, that's directly from the page. Like
Yes.
the Lastragonian scene, when you're looking at the aftermath and the seas actually turned red with blood and everything, like that's described in the book, and they show that, but they fuck up the Lastragonians in terms of what they look like and how they behave and all this stuff. But other things, there are other things, small things that he took, little things from the book that he expanded on that I actually think worked really well.
So,
Like the strumming of the bow, right? That's from one part in the Odyssey when Odysseus gets home and he strings his bow at the end scene, like during the return before he kills everybody, strings the bow and plucks it and it rings out. And I liked how they made that part throughout a little bit of the story so that when he fucking does that, it like has more meaning and Penelope immediately realizes what the fuck's going on. Like I enjoyed that. The dog. Right? The dog, which you only get
Oh,
at
that
the
was
very end,
terrible.
the last little mention
I
of the
laughed.
hunting dog as Odysseus is walking into his home in disguise. They play that out throughout the movie. So I think it makes that scene a little bit cooler.
That scene hit for
It
me.
was too short.
Big.
The only one that
still
does.
doesn't matter. It hit for me, man. As a dog owner, That
You
seems
see his
okay.
he sits down, his tail goes down, and he turns around and goes, "Just bury him." Like it was the complete deadpan delivery. The guy didn't care at all. And there's a movie, The Return. Even that does it better. Just make him look sad or something. He just turned up and bury that, will you? And then he just walks in and fights.
Too short.
And this is a
keep-
total aside
keep
thing with the
saying
dog.
that.
Can we point out too, like John Leguizamo, when you first meet how he gets the dog? Like the whole audience was like, "What?"
Brutal.
We also haven't talked about
puppies
him
on a
enough
cliff.
yet. I could not stand John Leguizamo in this movie.
I thought
And,
he
He was your real
it was
hero. Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
so much fucking screen time.
He-
I thought he was fine. I hate John Leguizamo. Period. I really hate him, but I did not. He was fine in this movie. So
I don't know. I cringe every time I saw him on screen. And I guess I don't know if that's just because of who he is or whatever. It was part of it. But he was in the movie a fucking ton.
Yeah.
Way more than
fine.
I expected.
Also,
And
just-
he drove me crazy every time he was there.
This is a spoiler.
I don't think
if
he
you haven't
brought
seen the
anything
movie, but
either.
The dog scene when you first meet him, he's looking at puppies, and like if they're not like up to snuff, he just throws them off the cliff.
the cliff.
And you just hear,
Ugh.
"Woo!" and I was like, "What the fuck just
Yeah.
happened, bro?"
Yeah.
Like the whole
luckily, I
audience
was
like,
I was warned ahead of time about that by a friend, and
I
like,
love
cool.
dogs, but I'm sorry, that scene made me laugh.
I was like, "What
It
the
was so
fuck?"
dumb.
And I was like, "Dude, what are we doing, man?" And then well, it's also
like
make
the
Odysseus look
Greeks
like a
do shit
hero
like that.
because he was like, "Oh, don't throw this one."
And,
like,
yeah,
what about
say
the what? What about the rest of them? And he had a really good eye for dogs. I was like, oh.
The point, I guess, of my overall comment about some little things that they took and expanded upon, it's like,
Yeah.
so clearly there's like, hey, I'm going to take this thing from the source material and do something a little more powerful with it. It means it's a huge, massive decision for every single thing they fucking changed. If you're going to pay that close attention to these little tiny things, then it means all the other changes were 1000% super fucking intentional in
Of course.
every way.
Oh,
And that's why it's so
100%.
There was a knowledge of the source material. They know it very well. So it's not like, oh, we accidentally know. Everything was very deliberate.
Yes.
The scenes which
You know,
weren't changed were things like the island with the was it the cows of the sun god? That's basically
Yes.
exactly as it is in the entire book.
Yeah.
Everything that didn't have some kind of ideology attached to it was exactly the same. Everything that was changed for a reason, and it was
For a
all
reason.
for this Zeus's law thing or this feminist arc of Emily Wilson's translation, which already manipulated it. That's so it was all changed for a reason. It's like hacked apart at the story. It was almost like it was written backwards. He knew the message he wanted with Zeus's law, and he just forced everything else into that path to lead to that conclusion.
And
100%.
it was
In regards-
obvious.
In regards to the strumming of the bow, the reason, like, I get the narrative thing that Ryan is saying there, but when you're on the verge of starvation and it's really crucial that you bag a deer to feed your men, strumming your bow and give it a chance to escape seems really, really stupid. There were things like that where it just made the character look more dumb for forced reasons.
Well, it makes him seem honorable, right? Because he's warning his prey, I'm about to hunt you, which is why when it hits the end, it's like, oh, it's on because he's about to hunt all of these people. He is now the predator. But the issue is that's contradicting everything else you're showing in the movie because you're trying to deconstruct this man and then you're showing he's honorable even against animals. So, once again, it clashes.
Yes.
But
100%.
back to the Lystragonians, just for a moment.
Oh yeah,
Please,
The moving
please.
trees.
This is one of a couple times there were chuckles, unintentional chuckles in my theater anyway. One was for Elliot when Elliot showed up in the beginning, and for this, because people throwing out the clip of Monty Python is completely accurate. If you haven't seen the
Yes.
movie, it's run away, and they just run, and the trees move, and but I'm gonna shock Metatron right now.
please.
I didn't fucking hate the choice of making them just 8 foot, 9 foot tall dudes because in my head canon, I think they are the remnants of a pre-Diluvian
Oh
civilization.
no, the height is not my
Yeah.
problem. You can
Yeah.
make them 15 feet. It's what the heck is that?
A more advanced
Armor.
Diluvian. And yeah, they did
So the
mow them down.
Lystragonians are basically barbaric cannibals.
Yeah,
that, like
they
were
were supposed to be.
around
Bro, they
for
should have
you,
made
right?
them
Killing.
Stone Age looking, like Denisovans, not
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Like
big old cavemen.
15th century barbute in the Italian style. What the heck?
Yeah, they
that?
should be running around in like loincloths or fucking
Yes.
like
Tossing
large
rocks
hammers
and shit.
or, like whatever. I don't know, but this
I'm
was
just more concerned with what are they doing?
Yeah, why are they all like this? They're just
They're all
like,
just hanging. They're just hanging out, battle ready,
hanging out
and
with
then
their armor, waiting for
kid
somebody to show
screams.
up. Yeah, that's all they're doing.
Vultures. Plus, you can tell it's plasticky. I don't know, rubbery.
It's barely in the movie, and it's like, yeah, why did you make this choice? They rush through the sirens, they rush through the life
Oh,
dragonians.
but you have to show this.
Yeah, but then they leave out so much other stuff.
I still enjoyed the scene, but it was
Oh,
weird, so.
no,
Oh,
it was
I could-
undercut by the stupidity of the setup. It
Yes.
was-
If you put the Benny Hill music to it, it'll be great.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
And then there's the Stela, there's the whirlpool, and
Scylla and
Scylla and
Scylla.
Charybdis.
Yeah.
Yeah, this to me, Scylla was the most
Scylla,
that was the
sorry.
most disappointing thing in the whole movie as far as the
That was
the
awful,
monsters.
yeah.
and stuff. It was not good. It did not look good. It looked terrible, and it was so quick. You know, Charybdis was cool for the brief moment we got it, but yeah, I was really looking forward to that because in the trailer you actually see Scylla kind of reach through one of the on the ship. You kind of see
one
it
of the sails.
reach through-
Yeah.
and so I was like, what is he gonna do here? And it was pretty underwhelming. That was that was my least favorite part of all of like the supernatural or monsters or anything like that. It was Scylla.
I'm like, man, you can tell why this guy only does practical because holy cow, this looks bad.
Yeah, it didn't look good, and it really cements like the fact that they just wanted to ground this thing into nothing. And I'll
It really-
I say it in my review, but like, and I'm dead serious. I would have rather have seen an Odyssey directed by Michael Bay. It would have been more fun.
So there's a couple of things that I want to mention in terms of the practical side. Now, some people might call this nitpicking, but these things actually have significant, justification for plot elements in the story. For instance, the walls of Troy, they're supposed to be legendary, impregnable.
Right.
The walls of Troy in this film were like 10 to 15 feet tall. They were puny. They were absolutely like pathetic.
Again, in
And-
ruins too.
All right.
True.
Yeah, and so that did not justify the underlining whole premise of how difficult it was to siege Troy. It's like a couple of guys with ladders could escalate those walls
Yes.
and make him easy. And then the actual door that is was puny, and when it turned on the side, we saw how thin it was. Like a battering ram would just destroy it. And then when they throw down the brazier, it reveals, there was all these guys standing outside the wall. It's like you had guards on the wall 10 seconds previously. No one decided to look over with a torch. Like
was dark
constant moments
outside.
like that were just so stupid. The Trojan horse, they're going to stab through thick wood with a bronze sword like it's nothing, and they're all scared. It's like, no, you wouldn't be able to stab through thick, wooden, horse like that. And then the biggest thing that just so destroyed my immersion was the stringing of the bow. I mean, look,
5 hours later.
What it exemplifies beyond Shad's autistic breakdown of stringing a bow is the verisimilitude of this film feeling grand. And there's some sweet IMAX shots. There are, but there isn't a lot of people fighting. If the battles feel very small,
Yeah, they do.
Troy feels very small. And like it wasn't huge back then. I understand, but there's still a way you can make it. Yeah, there would have been more people fighting than that. I didn't see the grandeur that I was expecting in this.
Do you think
sweeping
that's
epic?
I think specifically one of the really only moments you could have and should have seen that was in the Troy flashback.
Troy,
Yes.
Do you think that Nolan's insistence on not using CGI
That's 100% what it
is?
is.
Like
That's 100%.
leads into that. Like if he
Yes.
would have just been willing to do a little bit and add a bunch more people in the background, so it looks
Yeah.
like tens of thousands.
Yes. Yes.
It could have felt a little different.
And that was what I was going to say earlier is I've heard this criticism of so many Nolan films recently. And when I say recently, in the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever, it has never been more applicable than here right now. This is the best and worst of Christopher Nolan. This movie is the best you will ever get from him with the IMAX shots and the incredible scenery. And it's the worst of him with the sound mixing and the fact that he is unwilling to use CG to get a better shot. Because as you said with Troy, I completely agree. Those scenes, Shad, you were ranting about it in your original rant. It feels like laser tag. in a local forest. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have this epic feel and epic scale, and they're trying to hide a lot of it with lighting to make it feel bigger than it really is, but it just doesn't work. It just feels very, very small. And all you need to do is add a little bit of CG. And I know we are the number one people to bitch about CG when it gets overused. So it's like,
well, when used appropriately, it's fine.
I know. And I think his mindset on it is just like anything else. You let one illegal in and you open the door.
Sure,
like you let one CG, little bit of CG, and next thing you know, you're the Eternals. You know what I mean?
Troy use a lot of CG though, because I don't remember them using a lot of it.
They did in some wide shots, absolutely. Like there's some shots, wide shots, overarching shots where you see tens of thousands of soldiers that I would assume were used. I don't think they had that many extras, but it does give you that immersive feel. And I remember interviews with Matt fucking Damon about this movie, and he's like, you see 10,000 people in a battle. There's 10,000 people in the battle. What battle, motherfucker? What?
Just got cut out.
Yeah.
So
you never know.
Yeah. Which is strange because they did choose to try and, through memory, add a little bit of Iliad, which I thought, okay, so we do get some fighting and some battle. But then, as you say, where are the 100,000 men? They're like in the 1,000 ships.
I think it's important to mention that they spread the sack of Troy throughout the entire film.
True.
And it's told from a couple of different perspectives. And the whole point was they show a big chunk of it at the end. And it bookends the film, because this is how they explain Zendaya playing Athena. And it is, Ryan mentioned it earlier, she's a priest of some kind that gets
Priestess of Athena,
who gets beheaded, and Matt Damon's Odysseus witnesses it. So that's what is imprinted on his mind. So it's either like a PTSD delusion.
That's what that meant.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, because they also have the head of the statue of Athena being beheaded at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, and that entire scene is meant to make you feel for the people of Troy that, oh no, there's loads of women screaming all over the place, that we shouldn't have done this to the city. And so you're supposed to feel bad for even like cheering them on in the first place.
I don't want to interrupt the flow too much, but if somebody share my screen, I think this is a shot from Troy. I haven't seen Troy in a long time, but like,
those are all real boats and people.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But that's the type of stuff that gives you the scale and the scope. You know what I'm saying?
True.
And
Lord of the Rings,
all
the triremes actually like triremes.
But also, even with that, you can do that practically too. There's ways in film to do that.
You're absolutely right. And so
miniatures
like this,
and stuff.
Just one or two shots.
I agree.
Like this fundamentally changes your perception of a scene you might be watching. You know. So, but I wanted to show that
it felt small in a lot.
Not the first time Gary's heard that.
Everybody.
I think Gary was reaching for the button and was like, "Wait, fuck, that's not me."
I did it anyway.
Luckily, it ended up with a squeaky voice one.
So yes, the showing the end of the sack of Troy and Matt Damon's reaction to it, the Zendaya scene really just hammers home, just in case you didn't pick up the very subtle messaging throughout the film, that toxic masculinity and war are bad. And Odysseus was not a hero in any way, shape, or form. And he was deeply regretful of that experience. And he spent the whole fucking film being regretful.
Which is the opposite of the actual story.
Yeah, I mean, tell the Trojans, they're the ones that like did what they did. So
tell Zeus.
No, not Zeus. Tell Aphrodite. It's Aphrodite. Aphrodite's the entire reason all this shit fucking happens, by the way. Women, because she is the one that promised Paris Helen to make that happen.
Didn't Zeus want to reduce the population, get rid of the some of the Titans, and reduce the population of some of the warriors too?
Yeah, but the thing is, in this, the gods don't exist. But Helen of Troy specifically apologizes, and she says,
She does.
I apologize for things that were done in my name. It's like, no, you should apologize for things that you have done. The things that I caused, because she left with Paris voluntarily. And so she blames that on everybody else. That's because it was even brought up by Lupita. It's like, well, I thought it was really important that I rounded out my story. What? I'm blaming everyone else for your own actions. At least be sorry for what you contributed to it, if nothing else.
So
Yeah, no, I don't think that someone like Lupita understands that, because do remember, she complained about the screen time given to women by Homer
Yes.
while being given very little screen time by Nolan.
By Nolan.
So I'm a little confused here.
Well,
I think she's just Strickland.
I think we brought this up on Daily. I think that could have been just as much a subtle shot at Nolan as it was Homer, because I don't know
Fix
what she
that.
was taking, but it's
time.
yeah, I think that can be interpreted multiple ways as to what she meant. Either way, she's a dumb bitch, but you can interpret it to what direction she was sending that. And
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
she
sure.
didn't even read Homer. That's the problem. She admitted that.
She didn't
So,
even know what it was until she got cast in this role.
Yeah, she has a master's degree in fine arts from Yale. Never heard of the Odyssey.
Never heard of it. That's
Listen,
fantastic.
I don't know if you guys have been seeing the memes that are being produced from this movie with Helen of Troy or her sister.
The police
holy
body cam footage.
shit, dude.
Police body cam footage.
Oh man, dude.
Dude,
No.
they showed one on Piers to a couple of like scholars. It was so fucking funny watching them react to it.
Oh my gosh.
Ma'am, could you keep it down? We're trying to enjoy the movie.
That's Clytemnestra.
Listen, I liked Agamemnon's armor. I know it was completely
come on,
inaccurate.
Come on.
No.
They cannot do that.
When the gate opened and he's standing there on his own, that was a cool
Yeah.
moment.
That was
Yeah,
good.
imagine it in bronze armor, though. Imagine it. Agamemnon's armor had 42 different segments in 3 different colors. So it would have been copper,
His
gilded,
armor's
and
really sick.
darkened.
Like, yeah.
Oh gosh, that would have made him look amazing.
The fact that like the guy that plays him, Benny
Agamemnon.
Safdie, Benny Safdie is who played him, and you see that guy and you're like, wait,
Huh?
that's the guy who played Agamemnon.
But they didn't show his face.
They gave him, I think they gave him way more aura than he deserved.
100%,
Like the
100%.
character of Agamemnon does not deserve the aura that he got. Like,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well,
I see what you're saying.
yeah.
I think they built him up though, just so that his murder carried more
Yep.
weight. Like if she
Yep,
killed a
100%.
nobody, it would have been nothing. But you
Yeah.
built this guy up to be the guy that took all of Troy. He's standing in front of the gate on his own with all his men running around him. He just stands still
It
in
was
front of
a
all
good
the
shot.
arrows.
That was fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
Whereas actual Agamemnon stayed out of the battles as much as he could and was ready to run away, like fucking take his boat and run away and leave everybody there. So
Yeah.
Basing a movie on Zeus's law is ridiculous when it all starts with the Cyclops, who just because he has contacts with the dad can get someone punished when he's the person that should be punished under Zeus's law. He's the first person to break it that just eats people coming along. So the message is, yeah, you can have all these laws, but strength overpowers everything. You should, it's like the indomitable will to make yourself stronger so you're not taken advantage of. All of that is stripped from the movie. So we're all supposed to be like, no, peace and love and harmony, and we'll just be hippies and love each other. And it destroys the entire movie. So you've got Calypso. Any woman in this that does anything bad in the original story, utterly eradicated. Calypso is now trying to save him, to fix his mind so that he can go back to the island. When in reality, she abuses him for multiple years and keeps him there against his will as a sex slave.
Yeah.
And under this, he's like, no, like he just didn't understand. He fell in love with her naturally on her own. That is pure Emily Wilson's translation. It is the feminist take that, well, he's a woman, so he can't do anything wrong. It must have been the man's fault somehow. She must have been trying to help him somehow.
Well, yeah, she keeps him there for, roughly 7 years, and he basically goes to shore weeping because he wants to go home. And yeah, I mean, she basically kidnaps him.
Why is he on the beach in the movie? And he says, I've spent so long on this beach, I can't understand. It's because he's looking for a boat to take him home.
And you don't want
Whereas in this, he's just on a boat on a beach for no reason whatsoever.
Well, and they're on that beach a lot. And you don't want to get kidnapped by Charlize Theron.
Yeah, she
Or
might turn you trans.
adopted.
That's what happened to Sinan.
Yeah.
Sinan, yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if he turned into a woman while he was there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
why they didn't recognize him when he expected Ithaca. They're like, who's this chick?
Tom Holland
Oh,
Tom Holland's performances. Tom Holland was very Tom
I
Holland.
hated it.
Yeah, Tom Holland's great.
I don't think he worked as Telemachus at all. So in the
Me
book,
neither.
actually, a load of people say that Telemachus is like some fresh-faced child that doesn't know anything. In the book, Athena comes down and she goes, "I think you should go over here and find out about your father, and then we can sort out the suitors." And he's immediately up for it. So he's like, "Yeah, I just want people to help me kill them all." Essentially, there's even an interview where he says he thought he was playing a 16-year-old, not a 22-year-old, and so he played him far younger than he was meant to be. And he comes across as really weak and vulnerable until right at the very end.
Yeah.
And I think he should have been a stronger person who's like, "I want to do this. I just need more people," rather than this kind of pathetic person.
True.
Yeah, because he's written like a teenager.
It is.
Mm.
Yeah.
I also love how Odysseus is able to like just teleport to exactly where he is.
What?
Remember Odysseus, comes in to save the day, just
Oh, the temple. In the
instant
temple of
transports
Athena.
there.
Yeah. Well, supposedly that was Athena guiding him, but if she's real, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a time of apparent magic. So
Yeah, like apparent magic is the key, right?
I know.
I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
Well, there is magic because of the
what was I
witch.
gonna say?
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's actual magic in this world. It does
Yes.
exist.
I remember
Why would you
that
say
was a
apparent
drug
magic?
adult. That was all a
that's the
drug adult
problem, though.
story
Is it-
that he was
is it
accounting.
hallucinations? That's a problem.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's all made up.
yeah, it's kind of like the Scarecrow in Batman Begins. They were just hallucinations. It didn't really happen.
Okay, Shad,
Not
I
a
will
fan
give
of
you, if that is the correct take, the movie's awful. So I don't
Thank
want
you.
that to
Yeah.
be true.
That is true, though. That is what it is.
I don't think that that's what you're supposed to take away from that. I think those
I
are
don't,
the
but-
things that happen as he's recounting them and it's coming back to him. I think those are the things that happen because
I think
he doesn't remember it all. It's slowly coming back to him as he's
Really? Because
remembering.
every fantastical element is only given in an account, and when it's actually in the present,
Yeah, but
it's
But
his,
that's half of the
you only
Odyssey.
see Athena,
Yeah,
and
that's-
it's a delusion.
The Lotus makes you forget things, not imagine things. Like, it's not opium. It is literally just and I think she even says, you couldn't have handled these memories, so I took them away from you, rather
well,
than...
the monsters are real, though. I mean, those are real.
Yeah,
So-
Scylla.
I mean, his
Scylla is
crew
actually
did die somehow. Yeah.
Scylla is the kind of the kicker here because you can't.
Yeah.
What do you make up there? Like, what is that supposed to be? Like, maybe you go like the Cyclops with some big dumb retard that just could kill men with one punch, but then what else are you Yeah,
Somebody's gonna edit that in.
he's just
And
hugging
make
the
that-
soldiers and just killing them in hugs and when you get to Scylla and stuff, you're like, what is that all about? That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, didn't
No.
Nolan want to say this is like a realistic, grounded take? And so for him to be able to justify the fantastical elements, that's his out. It's like, yeah, they were delusional, drug-addled recountings of
But you can't
from
dismiss
an unreliable narrator.
I think
like-
you're 1000% supposed to take away and have this question at the end: are the gods real or not? Right? Is this a hallucination the whole time, or is it Athena appearing to him in this way to play on his guilt for what they did to try to motivate him? I think you're supposed to feel that with this movie. You're supposed to not quite know. I don't feel that way about the giants and the
magic.
Cyclops
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Silling.
I agree
I don't
with that.
feel that way about that. I don't think that's what you're supposed to take away from
Well,
it.
because also like the scene with Cersei or whatever, when he figures out what's going on, he shoots that sheep and then it turns into a man. Like what is supposed to be the takeaway there is like he just randomly shot some
Shad would
guy in the-
argue that they're all memories under the power of Lotus, so all that he just made up.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe.
that doesn't make any sense.
That's
I
what
just-
Shad's response would be.
We're talking about chat for a second because there is someone who keeps super chatting asking me to say man. So I'll say it because I don't want to disrespect people's money. Okay.
Metatron,
Okay.
as a Nolan fan, can you do me a favor?
Please.
Keep grifting him and pissing people off.
Oh,
please.
absolutely.
Oh,
I will.
You make
Oh,
so many mad. You make so many people mad. They're like, he won't stop. It won't stop.
Brother,
That's so
one
great,
video
dude.
per inhabitant of Greece. That's my promise.
I love seeing how many people are getting triggered by it, and I see all these response videos in my timeline, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you guys, like,
I'll never stop.
it's not that.
I'll
It got me the other day when you were like, I've done 2 videos. I need to step up to 3. There's too much content.
I did say that, didn't I? Your video was so funny. Disparu, you freaking love it. Disparu, I love it.
Thank you. I tell you, when they did Who's Gonna Nick Things from the Set and they only asked the minorities, I was dying.
Oh my gosh, that was hilarious.
Wow. So the Odyssey.
It's a movie.
It's a movie that a lot of people are going to see.
I think that's Paul Chatto's review, actually.
It's out of the theater. It's a film.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Shad.
Well, from the discussion from everyone, right? Everything we've been pointing out, the massive problems. And I was speaking up, but you guys will bring up really significant issues after, like, if you take everything you guys have talked about in totality, I don't know how anyone could call this film a good film.
I can.
Because it's not a bad movie. I didn't walk out of it and go, I completely wasted my time watching this film. I'm like, I enjoyed some of it. I didn't like all of it.
You can enjoy it.
And the thing is, the more, and we've said this before so many times about source material, the more you know about the source material, the more complaints you'll have. And there are guys that walk around saying that the Lord of the Rings films are dog shit because they didn't follow the books.
Yes.
So you can't tell me that is a good argument of measurement. You can watch this movie and not walk out of it and go, I wasted my film.
I think
I wasted my money.
From the film on its merits, on how it plays out.
I think when the public accepts something, that is how that's the only way to judge it. Like, there's no other way.
No, not for me.
Are you Jeremy?
I'm not saying that you have to think it's good. I'm saying that's the only way to have a consensus, motherfuckers. Yes. Quit getting so fucking offended. No. I'm not saying you have to like it. I'm saying that's the only way we have to judge something. And also, so by that standard, Barbie is a successful, good movie. You don't have to fucking like it.
Sure.
Oh, and so is The Last Jedi. No,
you can't.
The Last
Jedi killed Star Wars.
But if you actually watch it,
it was so popular when it came out.
No, Jeremy is right. If most people think it's good, then even if you don't like it yourself, you have to admit that there is something in it which is good enough for most people.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Avatar is absolute garbage, but a lot of people like it.
It's like there are loads of streamers that get tens of thousands of viewers that I cannot see when anyone likes them, but there must be something about them which is good for people to watch.
Like them. The general consensus, I am in the minority, and I don't care.
I agree with that.
We have to have a consensus is the only thing I'm saying. Because there's,
I don't know. There is a lot of people that say they like it to own the chads, though. So those are lies.
There is that too.
So
that exists. I think the overpraise comes from. I think the 10 out of 10 definitely is from that.
Yeah, it's an amazing film.
There's people in the media, right? The access media who are definitely looking at this as a payback for Supergirl.
Yes.
Like they absolutely 100%. are.
There's a difference in the movie, what it is, and what the filmmaker was meant to convey and what their intention was, versus if it's a work that's like something else, how it's adapted. And because we know this story, because this story exists, and it's a really flawed, fucked up adaptation, especially how subversive it is with some of the stuff that's originally supposed to mean versus what it means in this, that plays into how we feel about it. If you step back and look at the film, I think it's like a 5 out of 10. Right. In terms of some of the story conflicting with itself, in terms of it feeling emotionally hollow at times, yet some of the things they did at scale and some of the impressive things they did, and here or there, a little bit of acting between these characters that I bought into, I think it's mid as fuck. But when you factor in like how much I disagree with some of the worldviews that are trying to be presented in this, that's really frustrating. And that's one of the things, all these negatives that we're talking about have a lot to do with that. But that was part of his intention, was to convey that. So it's this balance where, how do you look at it if you're just judging it as a movie versus adaptation? Harry Potter movies, right? Pretty good fucking movies, bar none. Some of those movies are terrible adaptations.
Yes.
Right? So we have a ton of fucking complaints about how they were adapted and why they were adapted, even though they might, in whole, like in isolation, be good movies.
For me, I think the problem with this movie and the damage that it's causing is there's a lot of people that probably have not read the Odyssey or seen previous iterations of it that are going to walk away saying, well, this is the Odyssey. This is what the Odyssey is about. And it's absolutely not the case.
On the flip side, there's going to be millions of people that see this movie that have never read the Odyssey, and they're going to read the Odyssey.
Yes, the danger is if they then go and read the Emily Wilson's translation, because Emily Wilson's translation is to make it accessible and modern and done for students. And so if they go and look, that will be one of the ones that are recommended, rather than one of the earlier ones.
Like Fagel. Yeah, they should.
My take is that this film is objectively bad, is going to be remembered very poorly in the future.
Saying objective doesn't make it objective.
I don't think it will be, but I do think there's going to be a lot of people that watch this and they don't. they're going to be like confused. They're going to maybe watch it a couple of times, but I don't think they're going to be satisfied by it, because without the heroic messaging, I think it undermines what makes people satisfied with the story. And so they're going to come across as like hollow and drained and like kind of a bit numb. It's the same way I felt like Joker 2. This would have been a way better movie if they just made him a hero. Like if they just dropped the Emily Wilson's translation, it would have been a vastly better movie than what we ended up with.
I think this movie is going to be incredibly successful, and word of mouth is already showing to be incredibly strong. And I think that this will be one of the more divisive films in fandom for sure. But to the general audience, I think the thing is going to sail big time. I think it's going to be huge, massive. We'll see. Could be wrong.
We'll see.
Well, we'll definitely see by next weekend. Yeah, what the drop off is.
Mhm.
So.
And I think you're going to have an
That's gonna be the
incredible.
indicator.
But see, I don't even know if that is an indicator because of the IMAX sellouts that are in week 2.
for IMAX.
So it's going to be distorted at that point.
Yeah.
This is what I kept saying. I have kept saying, this is Christopher Nolan. This ain't Rachel Zegler. This motherfucker has pull like nobody understands clearly for people that were saying it's going to underperform, it's going to flop. It's like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is Michael Jordan right now of the 90s NBA. That's who he is. And you don't have to like it. And a lot of people hated Michael Jordan back in the day, and they said he was overrated, and they said he sucked. Guess what? He was still Michael Jordan. So, that's where we are.
And the difficulty of this is not just an actor that you're going, I don't like this actor, and so what they're doing, I don't like. Like, he has enough skill as a director to make movies that the audience resonates with. Whether they understand why they're resonating with it or what they're resonating with, they're feeling something. And a lot of movies that come out today, they don't feel anything. They walk out of it and go, I don't even know what the point of that movie was. So, like, I don't even know. You're going to feel something in this film, whether you like it or not.
Well, that's also
to me,
the other issue.
potential.
Yeah,
The potential is thank you. The potential is also what makes this terrible, because it could have been incredible. It could have, like, you had all of these things we are saying about Nolan and the skill that he has, the talent, the cinematography, the money, the budget. If they had removed all the nonsense, which we know why they do it, but if they didn't do the race swap, they didn't do the Emily Wilson translation, they didn't put the feminist message in there, this could have been phenomenal. Which makes
if they made a completely different movie,
maybe
it could have been incredible.
If they made the Odyssey, completely different movie, like remove Helen of Congo.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Remove Helen of Congo. Remove
Fallon
all
of
the
Troy.
rest of the nonsense. Remove those two guys saying we are the Greeks. We know the messaging. I think the movie could have had a very high.
Me and
potential.
Metatron are on the same
It's a
page.
shame.
Dude, just recast less diversity and a little bit less messaging. I got no issues with the overall movie. Like, if you want to break it down, if you want to get into like all that, but like you said, Mike, Lord of the Rings fans of the books will trash the live action movies. All right. I think those are the greatest movies ever made. But there are people that are so closely connected to the source material, they can't see it for what it is. And I appreciate that. But this movie is well made. It's a well-made movie from a cinematic standpoint. Yes, it is.
From a technical standpoint,
This movie is like if Sauron had Frodo on an island for 7 years and was just feeding him cookies. Like, you were literally taking an evil villain from the book and being like, well, actually, he was just a good guy trying to help him to get to the volcano to throw the ring in the first place.
No,
Like, what they did to Calypso is so astronomical.
Calypso isn't nearly a villain like Cersei's a villain, because Calypso, unlike Cersei, Calypso actually does have like kind of a tragic backstory, that she's trapped on this island and she's kind of cursed for these travelers to, like, she's by herself and these travelers wash ashore, and she desperately wants to keep, like, she's kind of cursed to fall in love with them and want to keep them there, right? Which that's a little bit more complex backstory than Cersei, who is portrayed a little bit more like ill intentions towards all of these men until Odysseus comes along and bucks her.
But in the film, Calypso, like the book, the poem does a bunch of heavy lifting, because if you watch the movie, she's just a 60-year-old woman with plastic surgery on a beach. I mean, that's it. Like, you don't really get any background for her at all, other than her looking up at some rumbling a couple of times.
There's some thunder which is meant to be the gods making her send him away, when actually no, she is forced. She would have kept him away from his wife forever. But again, even that's undermined, because in this he doesn't want to get back to his wife. So they destroyed the meaning for it.
Yeah, I like. Listen, I judged the movie on the movie, and I felt nothing when I walked out of it, and it's not going to change. It's not anything I would really want to watch again. I have to piece through it to do a review.
One time, you did it twice. I don't know how you did that.
nerderotic.com. Please subscribe.